Princeton, New Jersey. July 1935. While collaborating at the Institute for Advanced Study, physicists Albert Einstein and Nathan Rosen publish a groundbreaking idea. They come to the conclusion that the theory of relativity actually allows for shortcuts across the space-time continuum. These paths, called Einstein-Rosen bridges, more commonly known as wormholes, connect two distant locations, making travel to the most remote stars in the universe a possibility.
What you're talking about is a structure in space that involves very, very strong bending of space and the connecting of two different parts of space. So if you think of a piece of paper curved around and then punched out and connected from one place to the other, that's your basic wormhole.
If we look at the distance from our planet to the nearest star system, it's 4.2 light years away. That means you would have to travel for 4.2 years at the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles a second, just to get there. The only way really to do that would be by something like a wormhole.
While the idea of wormhole travel offers incredible possibilities, realizing this technology poses immense challenges. Scientists estimate that creating a traversable wormhole would require a far greater amount of energy than anything we can produce today. But there is a theory that so-called exotic matter may provide the key to unlocking wormhole travel.
What you need is matter with negative mass. And we're only aware of matter with positive mass, so we call this exotic matter. Not that it couldn't exist, we're just not aware of it yet. But the bottom line is it takes huge amounts of energy to create these. Imagine taking all of Jupiter now, its entire mass, and converting that to energy. You know, you're talking of millions and millions of times more energy than you have in a nuclear bomb.
Although most scientists say that we're a long way from developing the technology to create wormholes, if such a thing is even possible at all, there are those who believe these celestial shortcuts already exist. In 1991, scientists at Vanderbilt University proposed that the chaos of the Big Bang not only created the universe, but also may have caused the formation of many wormholes billions of years ago.
During the Big Bang, space-time itself was being mashed together, expanded, contracted. And one theory says that if you had something like the size of the Himalaya mountains, the space-time around it could have been so badly stressed that it would mash this matter inside its own event horizon. In the same way, you can imagine space-time being mashed together and forming a mini wormhole.
The possible result, according to researchers, would be a wormhole about the size of an atom. Once located, these mini wormholes could possibly be stretched to create a traversable wormhole.
One of the things we know is that since the Big Bang, the universe has been expanding, which means space-time overall has been stretching. So when the universe is quite small, you make a teeny little wormhole. As that whole structure stretches, that whole wormhole stretches and grows big as well. So you could end up with a very large wormhole now.
If wormholes were created in the earliest stages of the universe, is it possible, as some ancient astronaut theorists suggest, that celestial beings have already used them to travel to Earth in the distant past?
It's very possible that wormholes or stargates opening and beings coming through them are a way to explain how man was interacting with the ancient gods.
Santa Barbara, California, November 2022. A team of physicists, led by Caltech professor Maria Spiropoulou, conducts an extraordinary experiment. Using Google's powerful quantum computer, they successfully create an observable and traversable wormhole.
Recently, there's been a great concept for an experiment where some scientists are using the Google Sycamore quantum computer to simulate a wormhole. They set up a model of the universe inside the quantum computer. And then, when they turned on the program to run, it would transfer information from one processor to another processor via a wormhole. That's fantastic. How do we go from inside a simulated universe to out here in reality where there's portals and stargates that we can actually use to go from here to wherever you want to go? That's the next step.
Modern science has now taken us beyond Einstein. Now we're talking about the fact that space and time could be curved. Curved to the point where it may be possible to create gateways. Gateways to other parts of the galaxy. Stephen Hawking, the great cosmologist, looked into this and says, well, it would be difficult, but yes, it may be possible to build stargates.
We're suddenly returning to ideas found in the ancient world about traveling through stargates, going to other worlds by opening doorways. Our science is now geared towards opening these stargates. We now know that the idea of a stargate is real, it's real science, and it's very desirable.
Some scientists believe it is only a matter of time before we are able to create a stargate through which humans can safely travel. But if we do open a stargate to another world, how might that change the course of humankind?
If wormhole travel ever becomes possible, it would be one of the greatest breakthroughs in the history of the human race. We're talking about opening up not just the Earth, but the entire galaxy for human exploration. Think of the impact to navigate to the stars.
If we're able to create an artificial stargate today, this would change everything. Suddenly, we would be able to make instantaneous journeys to the moon, instantaneous journeys to Mars, and instantaneous journeys to other planets and solar systems as well. As long as you were able to create, the computer coordinates for where you wanted to go, you'll be able to just make that jump.
Stargates can benefit us in a number of different ways, whether it's understanding better the inner workings of the universe, how the various dimensions work, or if we unlock Stargate technology, the skies, or rather the stars, are the limit.
And if we had access to stargates and interdimensional travel, it's beyond our comprehension how this would completely change everything. It would be a brand new beginning for the human race, and it's one I hope to see in my lifetime.
Cal State Fullerton, 2013. Here, in a small lab at this public university, physicist Jim Woodward conducts experiments that he believes will one day change the way we travel through space.
I was primarily interested in trying to figure out how to make stuff go fast. And to do that, you need to master the problem of propulsion. To master the problem of propulsion to achieve speeds that are a significant fraction of the speed of light, you have to be able to manipulate inertia. And so that's how I got interested in gravity and inertia. What I found is that it may indeed be possible to get around space-time quickly.
Dr. Woodward's work seeks to prove a controversial theory known as Mach's principle, which says that there is a direct relationship between the motion of mass here on Earth and that of distant matter that exists throughout the universe. Woodward theorizes that if this proves true, it could be the key to unlocking Stargate travel. The idea was first introduced in 1883 by Austrian physicist Ernst Mach.
Mach's principle, at the simplest level, is the assertion that when you push on an object, The reason why it pushes back on you is because of the gravitational action of the most distant matter in the universe acting through the object. And so the matter out there, far, far away, is the stuff that determines the inertial properties of objects locally.
Mach's principle basically says that all the stars, all the planets, all the galaxies out there do in fact have an effect on us here. And the reason they do is because of the way they warp space-time. So even though you may not see it, the world around you is determined by what's going on potentially light years away from you.
Dr. Woodward's initial interest in Mach's principle was not to create wormholes, but to revolutionize space travel by creating propulsion without expelling matter from the craft.
Our standard way of thinking of propulsion is we send stuff out the back of something. So you have a rocket, it sends hot gases out the back. You have a jet engine, it sucks air in from the front and shoots it out the back. So almost all of our propulsion systems are that basic principle. Throw something out the back, you move forward. The Mach principle, almost think about it maybe as a surf wave, right? You're riding along on the wave, and that's moving you forward. You don't actually have to send anything out back. In this sort of effect, the idea is essentially to create a wave in space that you move forward on.
But Dr. Woodward discovered that Mach's principle could have implications beyond just propulsion. He believes it holds the key to actually creating traversable wormholes, giving us the ability to travel to the most remote corners of the universe. The experiments suggest that if scientists could somehow separate or decouple ordinary mass from the influence of this distant matter, huge amounts of negative energy could potentially be exposed.
In principle, you should be able to engineer devices that will enable you to screen matter from the influence of gravity of distant matter in the universe, and if you can do that, you can make stargates.
While the existence of Mach's principle is still debated in the scientific community, Dr. Woodward believes his experiments prove its validity. By running electricity through a stack of lead zirconium titanate crystals, known as PZTs, Woodward accelerates and temporarily changes the rest mass of the device he calls the Mach effect thruster. If Mach's principle holds true, when the mass of the Mach thruster fluctuates, it will interact with the distant matter in the universe, resulting in a small amount of measurable thrust.
All of this is happening through a gravitational connection between this local device and the rest of the matter in the universe. We have the Mach effect thruster here, mounted in the Faraday cage, and it's located on the end of the beam, like so. The reason why you put the thrust balance in a vacuum chamber is because you're trying to detect exceedingly small thrusts on the order of a micronewton. This display is of data taken over a period of 1 day. The red trace is thrust. The dark blue trace is the power being delivered to the device. This is the clearest evidence for the Mach effect. This large thrust transient when the center frequency is turned on, followed by a thrust transient when it is turned off. None of that thrust should be there if there aren't any Mach effects.
Could Dr. Woodward's experiments really be proof that Mach's principle is true? And wormhole travel is a real scientific possibility? If so, might we be able to create actual stargates in the near future?
If you're willing to devote significant resources to trying to do this, I would think that you should be able to build prototype very crude stargates within a decade or two.
Once we have this concept and, in theory, could develop the technology to move through wormholes, it's only natural that we would think that ancient extraterrestrials and alien societies would have also thought of this thousands of years ago.
Gamla Uppsala, Sweden. This small town, 40 miles north of Stockholm, is one of the oldest continuously inhabited sites in Scandinavia. Beneath this church, archaeologists have found what they believe are the remains of a famous temple called Uppsala. According to a 14th century text called the Deeds of Bishops of the Hamburg Church, this ornate temple was built to honor the most powerful Viking gods: Odin, Thor, and Freyr.
Frey is the main fertility god of Norse mythology. The rituals that we do have evidence of connected to Frey seem always to be connected to peace and prosperity. So all of these characteristics show him in a relationship with humans that's centered around prosperity and fertility of various types.
Freyr was believed to control the weather and was renowned for his diplomatic skills, quieting the feuds among the numerous Viking gods and giants. And in the Viking pantheon, it was a deity named Loki who provoked the most conflict among these gods.
Loki is actually not a god. He's a giant who is counted amongst the gods. And at the end of time, he actually leads the dead and the giants against the gods.
He's that transgressive character who makes possible all of these conflicts that the gods then have to solve. Without Loki, a lot of the conflicts disappear and you don't have a mythology at all.
According to the stories compiled within the books of the Eddas, Loki tries to atone for one of his many acts of mischief by giving Freyr a ship called Skidbladnir.
Freyr's ship, Skidbladnir, was the most fine craft that ever was in the water. It could go anywhere at great speed, and then, if he needed it to be small, he could put it in a small pouch to carry it around.
Skidbladnir is remarkable because you can fold it up and stick it in your pocket. But when you unfold it, it's one of the greatest Viking ships ever. It always has a wind. It always has a fair wind, so you don't have to tack. It always gets you where you're going in a hurry. And then once you get it to shore, you don't have to worry about where you're going to stow it. To be able to fold up your boat and put it in your pocket really has to be about the greatest thing that you can imagine if you're a Viking shipbuilder.
But could it be that Skidbladnir was not the product of mythic imagination, but was, in fact, an actual spacecraft, one that was witnessed by early Scandinavians? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and believe the proof lies in the legends of a race of beings who are believed to have built the magical tools used by the gods.
In Norse mythology, the sons of Ivaldi were these dwarves who made these special weapons for Thor and Odin and the other Norse gods. And so here were these dwarves, these gnomes, these small people. They're making these special, very high-tech weapons. The Norse gods are using them. So you have to wonder just who these mini people are.
The sons of Ivaldi were the master craftsmen of the gods in the Norse system, and they made each of these special things that are going to be needed by these heroic gods to do their deeds.
Might the sons of Ivaldi actually be the engineers behind the building of Skidbladnir, the magical ship used by the Norse god Freyr? If so, who or what were they?
Now the question is whether the sons of Ivaldi are real dwarves, the way we know dwarves today, or whether they are somehow more mythical, or whether the label dwarf actually stuck to them because they were somehow smaller. And of course today we quite often describe the grey alien archetype as dwarfish as well, simply because they are smaller.
Is it possible that these little people who are making these high-tech weapons were really gray aliens? And because they didn't know how to describe them, they will call them dwarves or little people? And these little people are the ones who are making these high-tech weapons for these Norse gods. And it would seem that these weapons are extraterrestrial in nature.
Now, when you think of dwarfs and think of extraterrestrials, you think of little grays, and I think the dwarfs might have been alien grays.
Might the dwarf-like sons of Ivaldi, described in the Viking mythologies, really be the alien visitors we know today as the Greys? And is it possible that the Viking or Norse gods themselves were in fact entities from another planet? If so, how did they get here? According to ancient astronaut theorists, the answer lies in a Viking legend that speaks of a rainbow bridge called Bifrost, a portal that links the realm of the gods with the world of men.
Bifrost is a bridge that connects Asgard to Midgard. And the Bifrost conceptually is very interesting. It allows there to be a very clear connection between humans and their gods.
Gods would travel along this rainbow bridge to their meeting, which was by a divine well. The red in the rainbow bridge was burning hot, so it was quite a trick to use this effectively as a place of transportation. Some scholars have speculated that possibly this was inspired by the Milky Way.
So here was this rainbow bridge that could be traveled upon to get to this home of the gods, land of the gods. So is it possible that this rainbow bridge, the Bifrost, was some kind of wormhole that would take people from a stargate on our planet to the home of the gods, literally to another planet?
Say you wanted to get from here all the way to around to China. It's actually longer to go around the Earth than to cut through the Earth. A straight line is always the shortest path. So you can imagine if you could make a wormhole, a cut through space that connects the 2 points you want to get to, you can make the distance effectively shorter and get there in a faster time.
Ancient man would not understand a technological description to describe a wormhole, but this path of light sounds very similar